Добрый день. Меня зовут Наталья Ефремова, и я рада приветствовать вас на секции
Good afternoon. My name is Natalia Efremova. I'm happy to welcome you at our AI in Retail session of the AI Journey. This year, this conference is hosted in 3 days. The first day on science, the second day on business, and the third day will be dedicated to AI for students and skilled children. But during this session, we will talk about using AI in retail. We will have speakers from the SAS, Teradata, Mars, and Eurolab. We will discuss AI applications in retail and business. This is one of the newest applications for AI today, and we will discuss AI in process automation and its applications in marketing. I will open this session with my presentation on the future of marketing, leveraging AI for better consumer understanding.
My name is Natalia Efremova. I'm a Teradata Research Fellow in Marketing and AI in University of Oxford inside Business School. And today I will be talking about the future of marketing and how we can leverage AI for better consumer understanding. But first of all, I want to introduce a Future of Marketing initiative and discuss our main goals. Currently, no single organization can take the new challenges of digital transformation and applications of AI in marketing on its own. And no business school could conduct research and teach current business leaders without collaborations with partnerships. In Future of Marketing initiative, which is led by Professor Andrew Steven, we aim to bring together the brightest academic minds with high-level industry partners representing major brands such as Twitter, Google, Facebook, PricewaterhouseCoopers, WPP, and many others. The key players who are shaping and are being shaped by the future of marketing. But first of all, I want to say a few words about our research goals and give a brief overview of our main topics. First, we're interested in understanding future customers. What are the future generations of customers whom we need to target with our advertisement? What do future marketers need to focus on? And what are the future business growth models? We need to understand future measurements and assess the impact of marketing in an expanding multi-channel world. We need to understand the interactions between different channels in case of advertisement and brand placement. We want to discuss future of creativity and innovation in marketing. Another question that we can address here is, can AI be creative? I mean, can AI be truly creative, and what AI creativity means, and when AI creativity can enhance human performance. We want to discuss future role of marketing, meaningfulness, and purpose of our actions. On the other hand, we want to discuss AI for sustainable development goals and want to understand our impact on the planet and what actions we can do to pursue zero carbon goal. And finally, we want to understand general applications in AI in all businesses, including its applications in ethics, transparency, and accountability of AI. I will give a brief introductions of our main research topics. The main questions that we're looking to answer here is, what are the meaningful, interesting, and important characteristics of future generations of customers, particularly in relation to how they interact with new technologies and platforms, for example, voice recognition, AI personal assistants, virtual and augmented reality, and of course, fake humans. So I will give a brief overview of our research on virtual reality for food industry, chatbots, what we can do to measure consumer attention, and what are the impacts of hyper-personalization and what we can do to measure it. Our first research that I want to focus on is called Feast for the Eyes, or How Augmented Reality Influences Food Desirability. The research question here is how AR can affect consumer behavior. So in this research, Bill Fritz and our colleagues from Future of Marketing Initiative, Rhonda Hadi and Andrew Steven, conducted a few studies in restaurants, cafes, and lab to understand how consumers respond to food items presented in augmented reality. Their results shows that almost half of the participants ordered desserts after viewing it in augmented reality. You can see on the left the visualization of how this experiment was conducted. Basically, there were two setups. In the first setups, users would have a typical menus with images or pictures of the dessert, and here they will see a device, maybe a smartphone or iPad, on which you can place a virtual plate on your table and rotate it and see it from different sides. So this experiment showed that in this setup, half of participants wanted to order this dessert, whereas in normal conditions in real menu, only 18% of participants wanted to order this dessert. Also, people who viewed the food item in augmented reality enjoyed the actual food item much better, specifically more than those who viewed it in a control format. And finally, people who viewed the food item in augmented reality desired it much more, were able to mentally simulate consuming of the food item and found food personally more relevant to them than those who used this in a control condition. So what we can say that augmented reality will really change the way we are seeing and we're processing food. And the second set of experiments, Felipe Tomás studied the performance of chatbots and augmented reality in customer service. So the question that they wanted to address here is, how does anthropomorphism influence consumer reports response to chatbots? What is anthropomorphizing a customer service chatbot? Is it a good or a bad thing? So what they have done, they have conducted a series of experiments in control conditions. You can see it on the left on the top, where chatbot is not really personalized, and on the bottom where it has a certain face and it was behaving more human-like. And they tried to estimate the satisfaction of the consumer with the chatbot and with the interaction with chatbot, and whole attitude towards the company, purchase intention. And they have found that in general, humanizing a chatbot is a good thing. It involves customers into discussion more. However, on the other hand, when the consumers were angry, anthropomorphizing was not a good thing, which happened due to expectancy violation. Ironically, since consumer expected much more from the robot that was behaving more like a human. In the next piece of research, we have studied applications of AI in business for general, how we can formulate ethics, transparency, and accountability principles to make it clear for all the companies who want to implement it in their businesses. The scope of the study was to understand what are the most notable developments on AI guidelines and principles that companies can follow, and how can businesses be best engaged as we are moving from principles to practice. In this study, we collected a large text corpus that consisted of two types of documents. On the one hand, we collected a large corpus of white papers and publications from business publications, intergovernmental bodies, technical community, academia, civil society, and national governments. You can see proportions of documents that we have collected displayed on a diagram. You can see that national governments had a bit more documents than others just because of the differences between their rules and formulations and definitely legislation. Second corpus of text that we have assembled was collected from different sources of news, mostly official news, from all sectors of economics, including consumer discretionary, financials, industrials, manufacturing, and so on and so forth. In this case, all industries were represented proportionally in our corpus. So in this study, we wanted to understand what are the similarities and differences between different groups of users and different stakeholders or different industry sectors in how they perceive AI, what are they interested most in AI, and what are they afraid of in AI. And this was increasingly important, since if we want to formulate general principles of AI applications, we need to understand what particular group of stakeholders is interested in. First part of experiments consisted of information extraction with natural language processing tools for each subgroup of consumers, subgroup of documents. And in this slide, you can see an example of such mapping. You can see that in this case, which is business literature, users are interested in different applications of AI more than, for example, technological principles. And this picture would be very different depending on what sector or industry we're looking at. And this shows that indicative list of AI principles would change dramatically depending on the stakeholder group. So at least partially, principles should be very general to be applicable to each user group. Main topics of interest can be theoretically detected automatically from text with NLP tools. So this is about the differences. And what are the similarities? What businesses care about when they address AI problems? In this case, we looked at the intersections of all these groups and detected the phrases that are important in all subgroups of text. You can see here that most frequent term that is used was real time. It means that everyone, every sector, every industry is interested in real-time applications of AI. Another important topic that people are discussing is self-driving cars, and so on and so forth. So these are the topics that are similar to all the user groups. So just to sum up, the research question was to understand how businesses in different sectors prioritize different aspects of AI and what are differences and similarities. And what we did, we applied natural language processing tools to all text corpora to extract some relevant information to our research questions. And our results showed that the topics of research can be detected automatically, and we can detect what aspects of AI is discussed in each stakeholder group. And the similarities also that there are certain terms that occur in each stakeholder group, which is AI, data, real-time application, self-driving cars, business centricity, human likeness, and other topics. It means that important parts that we can discuss in terms of AI is automation to the certain level, but human centricity is still important in these research questions. Regarding the differences, research showed a lot of differences between the stakeholder groups, and significant differences are in main topics and what businesses are most concerned on. This is an ongoing research, and currently we're collecting more case studies on different countries, different geographies, and different business sizes, from startups to small and medium businesses to large corporations. Next topic I want to talk about is measuring consumer attention on mobile devices with AI technologies. This research was conducted in collaboration with Lumen Research. In this research, our main question was how persons' attention to the content differs between desktop and mobile applications. What does consumer focuses on when he or she is browsing social media content on mobile device? What not only he or she focuses on, but actually if she or he is seeing anything at all, people tend to scroll really, really quickly. We cannot really guarantee what type of content is actually seen and what is remembered. What emotional feedback does consumer expresses for a particular type of advertisement, if any at all? And how much content does your user comprehend and it can affect further purchase intent? First, I want to give a few definitions that we've been using in our research. Generally, we defined attention as a set of cognitive processes that allow us to direct our neurocognitive resources optimally for our behavioral goals. Two types of attention are usually considered in the literature, which are covert and overt attention. Covert attention is the attention that we pay to something without moving our eyes, and overt attention is shifting the focus of attention from different points to other points on the screen with moving our eyes. Therefore, this type of attention can be easily measured with eye tracking tools. But in many cases, eye tracking tools can change how user behaves during the experiment. So our goal was not only to measure the attention with eye tracking, but to do it in a very natural way. So the user would be behaving and feeling most naturally. It meant that we need to develop a mechanism to track eyes from web camera on desktop or mobile device. To preserve GDPR rules, we wanted to do the processing on the device itself without translating any personal data to the system. So this is generally anonymized research, which use aggregated data from multiple users. So what do we do during the experiment? So usually experiments consist of three main phases. First, we can track users' face and detect main facial features or landmarks. Next, we detect a person's eye and the center of the eye, which is a pupil. And then we track the movement of pupil over the screen and calibrate it towards movement of the screen. So we can create maps of following type, which will show us where the attention was focused. Next, I will show you a few videos, and you can see how the experiments were conducted. So here you can see a performance of the attention tracking mechanism on a desktop. The goal of this study was to focus on a small alien dancing in the screen, and you can see that red spot in the center of a heat map shows where the user is looking at. You can see that we can detect very accurately the focus of users' attention and just monitor in real time how it smoothly moves over the screen. So in the next experiment, we checked similar performance on the mobile device. In mobile device, it's much more difficult because not only the user can move, but a device can be moved itself. So we needed to recalibrate really frequently. The task here was the same. We needed to make the user look at the dancing figure. And you can see that the focus of attention also can be easily tracked as user moves his or her eyes on the screen to follow the dancing figure. This shows that this methodology works and performs very well, and it can be used for understanding users' attention to the mobile advertisement. So next, a few words about the experiments. Here you can see the general experimental setup that was done in the field and in laboratory settings. The advertisement was naturally embedded in the social media feed or into the news feed. And while the user was scrolling the content on the screen, we've been measuring his attention and where he or she was focusing their eyes. So you can see that we can compare performance on desktop and on mobile really easily. And here you can see results for one of the study that was done on Tesco advertisement, and it's clearly well seen that first the user has read the title, not finished reading, then it started looking at certain objects while skipping others. This technology allows us to monitor real-time, step-by-step, what the user is looking at. And a few outcomes of our study can be formulated as follows. We can definitely say which type of text is more interesting for consumers. Here you can see the comparison of two types of advertisement with the text that is more readable, and you can see more distinctive heat maps versus where there are three different elements on the screen and the attention is more distributed. We can monitor all the attention funnel. Here you can see the results for 1,000 served impressions. During this experiment, a total of 21 minutes for 1,000 impressions was performed. And you can see three types of the experimental results on the right. First, we can create a heat map of user looking at the screen. Second, we can view the order at which the person was looking at the screen and understand what elements he or she switched to and from. And finally, you can understand different features that were presented on the screen. And here is another example of this type of experiment performed on Facebook stories. This research was conducted in collaboration with Facebook, and you can see here's heat maps over video advertisement. So we can track real time what is happening on the screen and what is being seen. Further experiments were conducted to actually understand what has been seen versus what has been remembered. This type of research is important when we want to apply new technologies and to, for example, when we're switching from desktop to mobile advertisement, it's important to see what is changing while we're moving from one technology to another. And finally, I want to discuss another project, which is hyper-personalization of advertisement. This research was conducted together with WPP, and this is also a work in progress. So I just give you a quick hint of what's happening there. So in this study, we wanted to use GANs, which is generalized adversarial networks, a new machine learning tools that was introduced a few years ago, and the model that we used in particular this study was StyleGAN2, presented this year in CVPR by NVIDIA. And what this algorithm allows to do is to move, change slightly the person that you are seeing on the screen. Initially, these all humans that you can see on this slide are generated, so they're not real, they're fake images. But what is important, these fake images can embed certain characteristics of a real human. So underlying this research was the idea, what would happen if we can translate some features of the user into the image in the advertisement? Imagine you are looking at the screen, and all the advertisement you see, or some of the advertisement you see, resembles yourself. From the research on Twitter, we have found out that people tend to agree more with opinions which agree with themselves. But what if we see something that look like ourselves? Will it impact really how you perceive or how you memorize the advertisement? And at which point it starts resembling yourself too much and it's getting really creepy. So this is the goal of our research, and our experimental setup here is to take an advertisement, for example, it can be something like that, where the main part of an image is a face, and try to change this face slightly, starting from more coarse to more fine-grained features, so it will be resembling you. It will be your age, or slightly older, or slightly younger. How will it affect the likeness of the advertisement? We can also change gender depending on whom the user is. We can change how beautiful this person is, and we can measure whether this advertisement is more or less appealing depending on who you see on the screen. These are all very important questions that we need to address while deepfakes are developing so quickly. And we need to understand what is the borderline where it is ethical and not ethical to apply this kind of technology. So this is our most recent research. This is also work in progress, so please stay tuned. And in conclusion, I want to say a few words about our future research directions. Currently, marketers and everyone in business is facing challenge of understanding the consumer of the future, the customer of the future, which includes the younger generations who are very different from the older generations, and many research outcomes cannot be really translated from previous generations to current ones. So, what question should we look at? We believe in future marketing initiative that the questions are as following. How can we better understand human-consumer interactions with non-human technologies and marketing contexts, such as AI-driven chatbots, robots, or artificial humans? How a newer versus older generation of customers, similar or different, and what are the implications for the businesses? What is the nature of customer loyalty in these new generations? How can marketers learn from younger, more tech-savvy, more sharing-willing customers? What can be learned that has business value, for example, new product ideas or insight? And how we can develop valuable, nuanced, and more precise view about the next generation customers. And finally, I want to give a few remarks about our research on artificial intelligence at Oxford. The University of Oxford, we're doing cutting-edge research of the AI revolution, including applications to businesses. We work across disciplines, and we have an amazing team of researchers that work in different combinations of disciplines. For example, AI and psychology, AI and consumer research, AI and economics, AI and econometrics, AI and marketing. We're very proud to share our research, and we're happy that it helps lives of many people. So currently we're developing a new executive diploma for leaders to understand applications of artificial intelligence in businesses. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much for having me today.